Hi, this is Tony Wu, and in this video, I'm going to show you how to use leverage to 10x the output of your business. And leverage is so important because you only have a finite amount of time and energy on this earth. You don't want to spend 14 hours a day working on the things that don't make a difference. You could be spending that time with family. You could be spending that time working on your health. You could be spending that time on enjoying all of the experiences that life has to offer. Or you could be spending that time on your business and doing things that actually make an impact. And that's why leverage is so important. So many business owners, so many entrepreneurs are stuck doing things that don't matter at all. It's just wasting their time. You don't want that to be you. And in this video, I'm going to share with you how to increase your leverage in your market, how to create high leverage offers and high leverage fulfillment systems, as well as the 5 types of leverage. Before I can actually show you how to implement leverage in your business, you first have to understand what leverage is. And by definition, leverage is getting more out of what you put in. So that could be like 1 unit of force. You put in 1 unit of force and you get 10 units of output. That would be leverage, right? And there's really only 2 ways to increase your leverage. The first way is to focus on higher leverage activities. Higher leverage. And that would equate to moving the fulcrum so you can put in less work and get more out. And the second would be to reduce friction. And this method is to increase your efficiency so your work is more efficiently translated to the output. And the first thing we're going to cover here is how to increase your leverage in your market. So that would be focusing on a high leverage market. It would be moving the fulcrum to the right. And before we can focus on increasing your market and your leverage, you first have to make sure that you're in the right market. And we'll make this quick. There's 4 basic principles. Number 1, your market needs to be in pain. They need to have a problem and you need to be able to solve it. Number 2, they must have buying power. They must be able and be willing to pay money to solve their problem. Number 3, the market must be growing. If it's a dying market, if less and less people are having that problem, then your business will never succeed. And number 4, you must be able to reach them. They must be willing and able to listen to your message, because if you can't tell them about your solution, they won't buy your stuff. Now we can get to how to increase leverage in your market. And it's actually really easy. All you have to do is solve more specific problems, because when you solve more specific problems, by extension, you're seen as more of an expert. The perceived value is higher. Let's say, for example, you're selling sales consulting for real estate agents, right? And maybe for that you can only charge $1,000 a month because there's a lot of competitors in that market. So, and competition lowers prices, right? So your profit margins will be lower. And because it's a wider market, your solution won't be as unique, your solution won't be as tailored. So first of all, the perceived value will be lower. And second of all, it might not get the best results because it's not as tailored to their specific situation. Put it all together. When you serve a wide market, your customers have the leverage because they have the ability to choose to go with any one of your competitors, and you have many because it's a large market. And that's being commoditized. You're a commoditized service. And the only way to fix that is to either niche down with your market so you have the leverage, so your customers can only come to you because you're the only one that can provide that value and the only one that can solve their specific problem. That's one way. The other way is to change your offer. You need to build a high leverage offer, which we're going to cover now. You have the most leverage when you're in control of the market, when you have a monopoly. And what we try to do when we increase market leverage is we decrease the amount of competitors that we have to compete with. And what we want to do with high leverage offers is that we want to solve problems so valuable that nobody can compete with us. And that's exactly what NVIDIA does. NVIDIA, people need GPUs because they want to invest in AI. No business wants to miss out on AI because AI is the next big thing, like everybody says. And NVIDIA has the infrastructure to make GPUs so good that nobody else can match them, and they can charge whatever they want. And when they charge whatever they want, they have so much profit that they can reinvest into making their GPUs better and better and better. And this way, none of their competitors can ever catch up. And this is what most of you probably do. Okay, this is what you probably do. Let's say this is the amount of value your competitors provide. That bar represents the value your competitors provide. And let's say this is what they charge. That line is what they charge. And the difference between the value they provide and the price they charge, that's goodwill. And goodwill is really important because that's really how happy your customers, your clients are with their purchase. And that's where all your referrals come from, all that good stuff, right? And then let's say they have this line represents how much it costs to fulfill for them. So let's say this box right here, that represents their profit. P for profit. And let's say this is you. You provide a little bit more value for a little bit less price. And this is the amount of goodwill you provide. But because you're providing more value for less price, that means your profit margins are lower as well. Very thin profit margins. So this way you can't invest as much as your competitors into making your thing more valuable. And this is what most of you do, and it's not the best because you're not leveraged. You're getting proportional outcomes for proportional inputs. And you're actually making the same amount of money as your competitors because maybe your competitors will get less customers because they provide less goodwill, but they're making more on each customer. So you're actually using more effort to get the same results as your competitors, and you never want to do that. And this is what you want to do. You want to provide a lot more value for a lot higher price, right? And this is the goodwill you provide. Still more than your competitors, so you will still get more customers. But it will cost more to fulfill because you're providing more value, but you still have higher profit margins than if you were trying to provide a little bit more for a little bit less like you used to do. Still healthy profit margins. And now your thing is a lot more valuable. So not only do you get customers because of the goodwill, the extra goodwill that you provide for your customers, but also because your price is so much higher, unlike when you were trying to give a little bit more for a little bit less, your price was around the same as your competitors. So you got grouped in with your competitors, even though you provided a little bit more for a little bit less. Your price is around the same, so you still got grouped in. But here, you charge a lot more, so your customers will have a higher perceived value of you. And I think there was this study done where participants were given 3 glasses of wine, and they were only told the price. One wine was a cheap wine, one wine was a medium wine, and one wine was an expensive wine. They were only shown the price of the wine and nothing else. And when they were asked to rate the different wines based solely on taste, they rated the expensive wine as being the best, the medium wine as being medium, and the cheap wine as tasting the cheapest. And this really goes to show how important perceived value is. Because even if your thing is the same as your competitors, if you charge more, then the perceived value will be higher. They will think of your product as being better. And that doesn't mean you should go scamming people, but you have to keep that in mind. You don't want to be grouped in with everybody else that is selling cheap things. You want to be seen as the premium product. And because you're the premium product, you have higher profit margins than anybody else. And because of these higher profit margins, you can reinvest into making your thing more and more valuable. So you provide more and more value, so you can charge more and more. And this way you can become a monopoly. You can provide so much value that nobody else can even compete with you. This is how you become a Google. You become so good that nobody even considers using your competitors. Okay, now you have your core offer, which would probably be something along the lines of, we help this market solve this problem and avoid this pain without this obstacle, right? And you shouldn't just be guessing at these things, thinking about guessing at what your market wants. You need to be sure that you actually did the research, you know actually what your market wants, the problems that they actually have, the obstacles that they actually have, and your competitors' shortcomings, the needs that your competitors don't meet, right? You can't just be guessing at that because that will never work. But the thing is that it's widely accepted that only around 3% of the market is ready to buy your core offer. Let's say this pyramid represents the whole market, and only around this much, 3%, is ready to buy your core offer. So what do you do with the other 97%? Do you just leave them? No, that'd be a huge waste, right? So around 17% are in what's called information gathering mode. They have the problem that your thing solves, but they're gathering information in order to make an informed decision. And the rest of this, 17%, I think it's, don't quote me on this, but I think it's 20% have the problem that your thing solves, but they're not ready to act just yet. And then the other 60% of the market is just uninterested, right? The other 60% uninterested. So there are 40% of the market that has the potential to buy your product or service. But right now, you might be only serving 3%. Or if you're following up consistently and doing the things that most don't, maybe you're serving 20%. But you could be serving 40%. So how do you do that? Well, the thing is, you can't only have one core offer. You need multiple offers for different people at different stages of the buying process. Maybe some of the people in the 20% aren't yet qualified, but maybe you can provide them the resources, the knowledge necessary to become a qualified customer. And if you do that, do you think they're going to switch on you and go to your competitors? No, they trust you because they've already used your product. They already know that you can deliver value. So they're going to stick with you. They're not going to go to your competitors. The purpose of these secondary offers would be to prove that you can actually provide the value that you say you can, to build up trust with your potential customers. And the other thing is to help the customers that are not yet qualified to buy your product or service and to help them become qualified. That could look like maybe you have your high ticket service around $10,000, maybe a retainer or a one-time service, right? And then you have templates or frameworks or maybe courses that you give your customers, you sell to your customers for a smaller fee to help them do it themselves or something like that. And then on the lowest level, maybe you post free content like I'm doing right now to educate your market and attract potential customers. And the customers that were walked up this process that's been with you for all this time is 100 times more likely to buy your high ticket service than somebody who maybe you did some cold outreach to. They're much more loyal, they will stay with you forever, and they will pay whatever you ask them to pay. A big problem that most people have with these secondary offers is that they don't make it valuable enough. They focus on their core offer, but they neglect their secondary offers. They don't provide that much value because they're afraid that if they provide too much value in their secondary offer, then there would be no reason for their customers to buy their core offer. But the thing is, if you give out all of your value, if you give all of your value, 90% of the people will not act on it. They might understand it, but they won't act on it. And only 10% will get all the value from it. So don't be afraid to give out all of your value. Give as much value as possible, because if you don't give as much value as possible, instead of attracting them to the walk up the value ladder, you will repel them. So that's why you need to give as much value as possible as early on as possible to build the trust, build the relationship, so that later on they will become loyal customers. Okay, so up to this point, we've been focusing on increasing your leverage by moving the fulcrum, focusing on higher leverage tasks, increasing the leverage in your market and increasing the leverage in your offer. But now we're going to cover high leverage, which would be decreasing the friction between what you put in and what you get out. We need to decorrelate how much you make with how much time you spend on the business. Because if you're selling your time for money, or if you're selling your employees' time for money, you'll never be free. You'll always be a slave to your business because the amount you work is directly correlated to the amount of money you make. And as soon as you leave the business, as soon as you stop working, you'll stop making money. So this way, you will not be able to enjoy the fruits of your labor that you worked so hard for. The first thing you need to do is to stop trading your time or your employees' time for money. So if you're charging by the hour, if you have a monthly service retainer, you have to stop that. For my agency, what we do is we get paid to implement our infrastructures into your business. So it could take us 1 week to do that, and we would get paid $10,000 for 1 week. Or it could take us a whole month to do that, and we would make $10,000 that month. Now that your time is no longer linked to how much you get paid, now you can focus on doing things faster. And to do things faster, you have to simplify, delegate, and then automate. But most people, they try to delegate and automate before they simplify, and they end up delegating and automating tasks that didn't even need to be done anyway. And I think it's the Pareto principle that states that 80% of the results come from 20% of the work. So delete the 80% in your business that are not getting you closer to your goals. And then now you're left with 20%. And then delete the 80% of the 20% again that doesn't get you to your goals effectively. So now you're left with, let's see, now you're left with 4%. And now you should spend all of your time and energy focusing on delegating and automating those 4%, and then speeding up those 4%. And then you need to focus on making those 4% work better and making it more effective. And if you look at any service-based business that's scaled to over $100 million and beyond, like Acquisition.com or McKinsey, you'll see that they don't sell their time, they sell results. And when they want to get results fast, they use systems, they implement systems, frameworks, and methodologies that decrease the amount of repetitive work that they have to do. Building the most efficient systems, the most effective systems, is a really complicated task, and I will cover it in a later video. But for now, I want to discuss the 5 types of leverage that you can implement right now. You've probably seen something like this before, right? 4 types of leverage. But I want to add one more type. 5th type of leverage, right? We'll put it up there. And there are 2 main categories. One is permission-based leverage, and one is permissionless leverage. No permission needed. And every great fortune was built using leverage. You can't become truly wealthy without using leverage. And yeah, you can become rich, maybe by being a lawyer or a doctor, but you won't truly become wealthy if you don't open up your own practice or you don't open up your own law firm. And it comes with owning your business or owning assets, right? And I don't remember who said it, but poor people do the wrong things, rich people do the right things, and wealthy people own the right things. And you want to own leverage, right? So the first type of leverage you can own is labor, L for labor. And this is what all of the ancient empires were built on. Think of Egypt and the pharaohs. How did they build the pyramids? With using labor leverage, right? And that's permission-based leverage because you need to get all this labor, you need to manage the labor, you need to pay everybody, and it's going to be a big hassle, right? The next type of leverage, you have capital leverage. Think of Warren Buffett and Charlie Munger. They use capital leverage to make their billions. And the thing about capital leverage is that you need to wait a long time for capital leverage to compound. And you also have to get the capital somewhere. People have to give you their capital, or you have to work and make money using another type of leverage, right? And then now we move on to the good stuff. Permissionless leverage, right? These are ranked in order from worst to best. So labor, it requires the most work to manage, capital less, and these two are really equal. First you have media, and then you have code. What's great about these two is that you can make media one time, like posting content or creating a course, or you can make code one time, like writing software or, yeah, software. And the thing about this is you can make it once, you don't need anybody else's permission to make it, and once you make it, an infinite number of people can gain value from it. An infinite number. So you make it once, an infinite number of people can gain value from it. They can pay you for it. And it doesn't require any other cost, any other time, any other effort on your part to provide more value to more people. It's infinitely scalable. And this is like media, for example, that would be content creators or course sellers. And code, think of all of the software companies, right? And the last one, in my opinion, the most powerful, is this, data. And the thing about data is that, first of all, you need media or code to get data because you need to create a platform first. And once you have this media or code, why it's so powerful is that you can also collect data from it. And for media and code, you have to make it once and then an infinite number of people could gain value from it. But with data, you don't even have to make it. You just have to make the media and code, and then the people make their own data. And think of all of the trillion-dollar companies, hundreds of billions of dollars companies, like Meta, like Google. They made these platforms using code, and then now they're collecting the data. And data is really valuable for marketers and for business owners and for entrepreneurs because data is so important to improve their business, to target the right market when they're marketing, to create high leverage offers. To do anything in business, you need data to back up your decisions, and that's why it's so important to have data. Anybody with data will outcompete and dominate anybody without data, and that's why I say data is the best type of leverage. And it's also really complex for collecting data, the right type of data, analyzing data, making data actually useful, right? And that's something, again, that we'll cover in another video. So what you want to do to summarize, to put it all together, is you want to focus on making really good media or really good code. And then once you've built that platform, you want to collect data from it to inform your decision making in your business and to help other businesses make decisions. I do plan on making a leveraged output framework that I'll leave in the description somewhere. But for now, if you niche down, focus on solving high value problems, detach your time from your money, focus on building systems, and focus on these top 3 forms of permissionless leverage, I promise you, you will be able to 10x the output of your business.